right, here's Ross with a guest recently talking about how NASA blurs things out of photos. And we know this has been true for a long time. And Ross himself has talked about NASA cutting during a live stream that he was aware of when anomalous objects showed up. And people like Carl Wolf have lost their lives seemingly talking about this sort of thing. So this isn't, definitely a thing that has been out there for a while. But here's some new information about it.
How weird this is too. If we go a little bit further, notice this is a very, very bright light source at the center of the image, right? And we can also see these boulders and rocks sticking up from the foreground right in front of it in the image. Here, 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 here. But none of them are casting shadows towards us, even though they're right in front of the central bright glow. That doesn't make sense optically at all. And again, there's nothing behind the lander. There's just this mountain 2 miles away. And to show you that there's something really anomalous here, again, this is an image of sunrise during the mission. So this was taken on an earlier day. So this is the sun above the horizon, illuminating the foreground. And if we look at the little rocks and boulders, they're all casting shadows towards us, towards the camera.
Away from the sun. Yeah.
Exactly, as we would expect. But for some reason, that's not happening at all in these images of the horizon glow. And it makes no sense optically, physically, geologically. So that is extremely anomalous. And I would also want to stress something else. So when I spoke to the Redwire Space Camera team of these anomalies, their best explanation about the shadow and lighting anomalies, such as here, was that perhaps the lunar lander, the Blue Ghost lander, had floodlights equipped, which were shining on the lunar foreground and producing this illumination. So they agreed that the light source had to be coming from somehow above or behind the lander. So their best explanation was that it must be the floodlights that we gave to NASA and Firefly Aerospace to mount on the lander. But they said, we are not sure if they actually used them, so you should contact NASA and Firefly and ask them if they used the floodlights. So that's exactly what I did. I wrote to the lead project scientist for the Blue Ghost mission, for the NASA instruments used for the mission, Dr. Maria E. Banks. This is the email correspondence. And she confirmed that no floodlights were used during imaging of the sunset on March 16, 2025. So she confirmed that the Redwire Space Camera team's best explanation for the lighting and shadow anomalies is not valid.
Okay, so some hinky stuff going on with the photos in that instance. What are they hiding? What exactly could a light source have been that they are blurring out and, hiding from us?
Are you sure that there are anomalous structures on the moon?
I'm sure that there are anomalous structures in the sense that there are structures, many of them, that do not fit into the standard geological model or understanding of the moon as a planetary body, and that fit many of the, I would say, criteria that SETI researchers have established for searching for or finding artificial structures on planetary surfaces.
Let's start off with what is, I think, the most recent example of an interesting scientific observation. There was an article in Nature journal, one of the most well-respected scientific journals in the world, the peer-reviewed journal Nature. It's going to be presented on the 12th of July by a guy called Matt Siegler from the Planetary Science Institute in Tucson, Arizona. And he's allegedly discovered extra heat coming out of the ground at a location on the moon believed to be a long-dead volcano. What do you know about that?
Well, as you described it, his team have discovered that there is a formation on the backside or far side of the moon that seems to be anomalously warmer than the rest of the lunar backside or far side by around 20-fold. The heat output of this particular region of around 20 kilometers is 20 times the heat output of the rest of the lunar backside.
And now what explanation does he venture for what's causing that heat?
The explanation that he and his team have proposed is that there is a 50-kilometer wide block of granite deep below the lunar surface, below this particular heat anomaly, and that it is emanating this heat that's being detected from the lunar surface.
Now, is there any evidence of this block of granite, or is this an attempt to find a prosaic explanation for an anomalous report?
There's no direct evidence for this block of granite. It's invoked purely to try to explain in prosaic terms, as you said, this heat anomaly.
And then there's the other one, which is, I think, the most interesting, the discovery of carbon nanotubes, a report that came out just a few days ago. Tell me about that.
Well, it seems that Chinese scientists in the Chinese Space Agency have discovered in soil on the lunar backside evidence of single-walled carbon nanotubes. Now, carbon nanotubes can be produced in high temperature conditions on Earth or on other planetary bodies potentially. But what's unique here is that these carbon nanotubes are single walled, meaning their walls are one atom thick, yet the tubes themselves are vastly longer than a single atom of carbon. And previously, in everyone's understanding of nanotubes, carbon nanotubes, it was thought that carbon nanotubes with a single wall can only form under artificially prepared conditions, and they were never found in nature, naturally occurring on Earth or anywhere else until this discovery. But what's interesting is that this Chinese team simply asserts without evidence that they formed naturally on the lunar backside under the conditions of the lunar surface, but they never actually attempt to establish it with actual experimental tests.
So your point is that the explanation of an artificial origin might be just as plausible as a prosaic explanation that it was naturally formed.
Yes, absolutely. And there are two possibilities there, right? One is that the carbon nanotubes were single-walled nanotubes were put in there after they brought the soil back. In other words, it's not a legitimate discovery, but the other possibility is that they really were in the soil there. And if so, then the artificial hypothesis, the hypothesis that this is a techno-signature of some kind by an ET civilization, has to be taken seriously.
In this clip, NASA physicist Kevin Newth suggests the agency is withholding definitive evidence. Well, of course they are.
And then you have the Gemini 11 mission, where and from the transcripts, the astronauts are working on were working, and something flew over their Houston NASA. That something just fly over you, and they say affirmative. Weird, and then there's something like 6 minutes of no transcript, right? And but when the thing flew over, the object flew over them, it drained one of their battery sets. Charlie stack got drained, so stack C got drained. So it's almost a classic UFO sighting, and they see an object in space, it flies over their ship, and then drains their batteries, right? And so that's in the transcripts of Gemini 11.
Wow. And that's public. That audio is public
as well, yeah. And now, so the question I've had is why, when we had the NASA commission, why was there no section on what astronauts have seen in space? Yeah. I mean, Story Musgrave, a shuttle pilot, also talked about seeing things like snakes.
Wow.
These things writhing around in space. And
really?
So yeah. None of that mentioned in the NASA Commission's report.
So bizarre.
So you've got, and then you have, what is there, the mission, the Soviet mission to Phobos, where their craft got disabled. The last picture shows an object like a fin in the, like a tail fin of a plane, looks like in the picture.
Whoa.
That's the last picture it took. And then the whole thing was disabled.
And the whole thing was disabled. And Gemini 11 also looks like the audio, like there was some sort of power interference or something as well, right?
Right.
Like electromagnetic interference.
You've got multiple events in space that weren't even mentioned in the NASA Commission report. Why? Shouldn't that be of interest?
Yeah, well, it totally should be of interest, and it definitely is of interest. What the hell is NASA doing? Clearly, they're deep in the UFO control group. I used to think maybe they were just running interference for them and, covering up for them. But it's increasingly obvious that they're not just running interference, that they are an active, heavy part of the UFO control group. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's so weird. Why invest so many lives and dollars in rocket technology if you have access to frickin' UFO technology? It's so weird. I don't get it. I mean, rockets are fine for us basic primitive humans, but we don't have to use that. And they have better than that. So I don't get it. I don't get it. And they have direct access, apparently, to high tech. According to Dylan Borland, NASA seems to be interacting directly with the beings and not at a basic level, not at a level where we have some captives recovered from downed spaceships, but actual, beings in giant ships of their own that are free.
During the summer of 2012, my team was on standby for weather, and I returned to my barracks on base, and at approximately 0130, I saw an approximately 100-foot equilateral triangle take off from near the NASA hangar on the base.
Yeah, this is at Langley Airfield, Air Base, where they've had so much mystery drone activity.
Bene, abbiamo molto di cui parlare oggi, quindi venite qui.
Sono Jack di Cosmic Road, parlo di UFO nel paranormale.